Welcome back. This is Dan Havey with CF Ninja Hacks, and in this video we are going to answer a couple of questions for Christy. The first question we're going to look at is how can you get rid of the colon inside of an order bump. So you put in your first bit of text here, there's a colon that is pre-populated, and then you put in the rest of your text. Now the second question she has is how can we insert an image inside of an order bump without using CF Pro Tools. Now, I have CF Pro Tools. I've been using it for years, especially for things like PayPal integration. Works a lot better with that. But in this case here, let's take a look at how we can insert an image or really any element inside of any other element. So first off, let's deal with that colon issue. So let's go over here first. And here's our colon. Let's right click on that and let's inspect that colon. And so right here is the colon. The problem with it is not inside of any kind of an element. So normally I'd come in here and I'd say, okay, well, this is part of a headline element, or it is a separate headline element or button or anything else. And you come in and you would manipulate it with some CSS. And normally you just say, in this case here, we don't want it anymore. So we would just say display none and have it go away. You could change the font size, you could change the color, you can do a whole lot of other things, but we would just wipe it off the page. In this case right here, because it is not inside of an element, it cannot be easily just wiped off the page. Now, there is a way you could do it. You could go into the editor and you could delete the element out while inside the editor and then save the page, and it will be permanently removed. But unless you're really good at working with the developer tools and stuff like that, I would strongly suggest you just tolerate the fact that there's a colon on the screen right there. So the second question we have is how do we get an image like this up here onto the page? So let's come back over here. We are going to click our plus button. We're going to say we want an image on here, and let's put in that same image that I had on the other page, which is right, where is it here? Here we go. There it is. So we just plunked that down in there. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to come into this image and we want to grab the CSS ID selector for that image, and let us copy that, and we're going to save this page. We're going to come over here and we are going to reload because I had taken out the image element and put it back in, so we got to make sure we got the right one in there. And so now we're going to go to our console, and I had been working on this before, so the code should already be in here, except we need to come in and we need to change out what our CSS ID selector is. And in this case here, we're just going to paste in what we had copied. Make sure always that you got the hashtag in the beginning of it. That indicates that it's an ID. And then what we're saying here is, so take this image that we just grabbed, so this image we just created, and we want to put it inside of this element. And in particular, we want to put it after the text. So we're going to inspect this part of the element. So let's inspect this here. And we're going to find that what that is, and here's that colon we were just looking at a minute ago, right there. We're going to find that we are inside of this P tag. So we're inside of a paragraph. And what we have to do is we have to look at the code and say, okay, how can we identify this paragraph so that we can put it underneath? Now, in this case here, there's really no classes for this element, and there are no IDs for this element. So that means we're going to have to grab one of the attributes in order to be able to define this. Now, we only have one order bump on this page. So if you're using Jamie's tool, if you're using Jamie's tools, you wouldn't even be doing what I'm showing you. So I was going to say if there were multiple order bumps on the page or something, you could run into some problems with what I'm going to show you here. But in this case, we only have one order bump on the page. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this attribute right here. So data-cf-id equals order bump. And we're going to come back into our console and we're going to put that information in right there. And you see, of course, you have special syntax and stuff with all the different square brackets and everything else. And I'm not going to go into that right now. But what we're going to say then is append to. So what we want is, let's go back to the code. We have our P tag right here. We have our paragraph. We want to make this image an element inside of the paragraph. So we're appending to the paragraph, and append to means make it the last child element inside of this paragraph. So we come here in the code and we come down and we look. Here we have our P at the bottom. Well, if we're going to make it the last child element, that means it'll go between the closing P tag and the closing font tag. So it's going to go right in here in the middle of these two at the bottom. So that's what append to means. So we're saying take our image and append it to that paragraph with this particular attribute. So let's hit our return button now, and it should pop it right there into place. And you see it sizes it down in order to fit inside of the bounding element, which in this case is our P tag again. So let's come back into our elements, and here we have our P, and then here we have our font closing tag, here we have our P closing tag, and here is our image element right in the middle between it. Now, if we wanted to, we could come in here and we could say, instead of append, we could change this to prepend, hit enter, and there it goes. It puts it above the text this time. Now you'd have to put a little bit of padding here at the bottom, maybe take out a little at the top just to make this look a little bit better. But you see there's multiple different ways to be able to do this. You can also do certain things like insert before or insert after. So I could take this image element itself and we can insert it after, let's say we want to insert it after the headline right here. So in that case, again, we'll come back, we'll inspect the code, and here is the headline we want to insert it after. So we click on this, and again, we have to look at how can we identify this headline element, this div. So let's open that up a little bit more. We got our label and our checkbox. We got another one thing here, and I am completely just doing this on the fly at this point. But let's say, let me see, what can we... Really don't have any attributes up there. I don't have a class, and I do not have, well, we could do it some way, but let's do this. Let's say we want to put it in right here. So we got class of checkbox inline, so that's pretty much what we're going to have to say we want to insert it after. So we got label checkbox inline. So let me pause this for a second. And so I fixed up the code here, so we have the same image, and we're going to insert it after that label with the class of checkbox and inline. So we smush them all together with no spaces in between because they all are identifying the exact same element. And I also refreshed the page so we didn't have multiple instances of the image on the page. So now let's hit return, and let's see what we come up with. All right, we actually came up with two of them here. So let's see why that is. And I would guess it's because both of those elements have exactly the same classes in them. And that is exactly what we have here. We have this one here is label checkbox inline, and here is label checkbox inline. So if I had inspected this a little bit deeper, I would have found that what we really want to do is we want to come in here after this class of bump headline. So let's copy that out, and let's just come up here and make sure this should not be called bump headline, I would not think. Now here we go, it's different name, or that's checkbox. Okay, good. So we're going to use this class now instead of what we have. And I had forgotten to put the period in there. Obviously, the period says that it is a class. So there we go. Now we have it up top here. And we also have the image then inside of the yellow section. We could put it above. We could put it all kinds of different places. So I just wanted to show you a couple of things there just to show you that you can take really any element inside of ClickFunnels and insert it into another element with, again, just in this case here, one line of jQuery code in this case is what we are using. So if you have any questions, just let me know.